shortly after German reunification, a challenge previously unparalleled in its dimensions confronted the country. Rehabilitation of the open-cast mining areas that had been severely influenced by lignite mining operations in former East Germany. Thanks to determined actions taken by the German government, the restoration and remediation of former lignite mining areas has developed into one of the most impressive success stories of German reunification. These efforts took place within the context of a gigantic ecological project under the direction of the German Finance Ministry, with participation of the lignite regions in the eastern part of Germany and in close collaboration with the public authorities of the German federal states involved. The results of 2 decades of committed rehabilitation work are not only truly impressive, but have opened new future perspectives in many areas. This work was carried out under project management by the Lausitzer and Mitteldeutsche Bergbau-Verwaltungsgesellschaft, LMBV, a government-sponsored company, together with its legal predecessors, that's been commissioned by the German federal government and by the German states of Brandenburg, Saxony, Saxony-Anhalt and Thuringia. The extraction of lignite and its use in power generation was one of the key economic mainstays of the East German economy. It represented the only possibility to meet energy requirements with domestic raw materials. By the end of the 1980s, 300 million metric tons of lignite were mined every year in the Lusatian and Central German mining regions by open-cast mining. The currently mined volume in these regions today is 1/5 of this amount. Intensive exploitation of this key raw material transformed vast areas of the East German cultural landscape, with resulting consequences for the environment. Extensive open-cast mining areas, lignite transport railway lines, and huge lignite conveyor belts carved the landscape. Countless coal processing plants, power stations and coking plants were supplied with lignite. This process represented an essential economic factor during the East German era, but created enormous environmental burdens for the following generations. A massive reduction took place in lignite mining beginning in 1990. Economically attractive open-cast mining facilities were privatised. No longer profitable mines and lignite-consuming plants were shut down by the middle of the 1990s. These decommissioned facilities remained the property of the Federal Republic of Germany. In 1994, the Lausitzer and Mitteldeutsche Bergbau-Verwaltungsgesellschaft, known as LMBV, was created by the German federal government. LMBV was assigned responsibility under German mining law for the mining facilities and for rehabilitation of the facilities and areas under environmental law. LMBV headquarters is located in the city of Senftenberg in the Lusatian mining region. LMBV administration for the Central German mining region is located in Leipzig. The headquarters for rehabilitation of areas with potash, spar and ore mining is in the city of Sondershausen. LMBV has developed attractive landscapes from former lignite areas on an area of 100,000 hectares. A key issue and ongoing challenge is assuring safety in these regions. Lignite mining in these regions resulted in more than 200 worked-out open-cast mines on a total area of almost 30,000 hectares. The most effective way to render these areas fit for future use was to flood them rapidly. Up till today, it's been necessary to secure more than 1,200 kilometres of slopes and dumps against tip slumping, approximately the distance between Berlin and Paris. A further challenge is to secure the structural stability of these dumps. During more than 150 years of continuous lignite mining, lowering of the groundwater level produced massive disturbances in watersheds and resources. When the open-cast mines were shut down and the water level began to return to its natural level, this created the danger of liquefaction of mining dumps and their slopes. Even the slightest of initiating factors can trigger the collapse of millions of cubic meters of overburdened dumps. LMBV has countered this danger with a great number and variety of techniques. One method is by explosive compaction, in which explosives triggered in loosely dumped areas compact the intergranular structure and expel excess water. Vibrocompaction, deep soil compaction by vibration, modifies the structure of a mining dump and creates a concealed dam. This technique has until now produced impressive results at many tipped slopes and has proved structurally stable. Vibro replacement compaction introduces additional material into the vibration cavity. Compaction columns are lowered into the slope up to a depth of 60 meters and create great structural stability. Drop weight compaction produces compaction primarily by imposition of load impact. The effectiveness of this method, however, extends to only a limited depth and is therefore restricted in use. The method of protective explosive compaction was newly developed by LMBV and its associated companies. This technique enables carefully targeted compaction without damage to the surface. The mining dumps must be secured against instability and shaped to prepare the worked-out open cuts for flooding. If groundwater alone were relied on to raise the water level, filling the former cuts would take decades and would produce acidic lakes in which life couldn't exist. For restoration of water equilibrium on a self-regulating basis, it's therefore necessary to fill the worked-out cuts by artificial flooding and, after achieving the required quality parameters, to connect them to flowing waterways. Flooding conduits, many kilometres in length above and below ground, supply the new lakes with surplus water from rivers and sump water from nearby open-cast mines. By its flooding management, LMBV has reduced the groundwater deficit resulting from many years of mining from 12.7 to 2.8 billion cubic metres. In both the mining regions, LMBV has created more than 50 major lakes with a water surface of 25,000 hectares. The Lake Geiseltalsee, more than 1,800 hectares, is the largest lake here and is currently the largest artificial lake in Germany. LMBV assignments also include monitoring the groundwater equilibrium as affected by mining. A number of post-mining bodies of water also serve reservoir functions. In periods of high water, these lakes store rainwater and surplus water from surrounding watercourses and release them in dry periods. They thus contribute to flood protection and maintenance of minimum water levels. In both mining regions, numerous new post-mining lakes have been connected in recent years. Originally planned strictly as necessary elements in the water resources balance, these new connections, financed by German federal states, today provide navigable waterways. The connection of canals with the new lakes has created large and highly diverse lake landscapes that have opened entirely new perspectives for the regions. In addition to hydraulic functions, these lake districts have proved highly attractive for excursion ships, sailing vessels, and lakeside hikers. Recreation and tourism potentials that were unthinkable earlier. And, just as important, good water quality. LMBV, with many and various measures for good water quality, has enabled not only touristic potentials, but also habitats for plants and animals. Worked out open cuts have been transformed into beneficial post-mining lakes. In addition to open-cast mining, underground mining has also left behind damage in these regions. Countless workings and shafts run throughout the underground. To protect the surface from subsidence, LMBV is backfilling underground workings and shafts at 19 mines. In expensive procedures, deep galleries and shafts must be secured and filled to prevent collapse and other problems at the surface. In addition, old industrial facilities and buildings must be demolished or used for new purposes. The rehabilitation of the post-mining landscapes by LMBV has produced a landscape transformation in previously unknown magnitudes. Many and various culture landscapes on mining dumps and around lakes have become impressive reality in both mining districts. Life is returning step by step to the former open-cast landscapes. Until now, around 17,000 hectares have been recultivated on behalf of LMBV, and more than 56 million trees have been planted. Areas taken away by mining have been returned to cultural landscapes in transformed and economically useful forms. At an early stage, LMBV, together with environmental protection associations, state authorities and research institutes, reserved up to 18% of the areas for nature preserves, a significant contribution to biodiversity and implementation of European environmental protection programs. Highly specialized plants and animals rarely occurring in cultural landscapes have been able to proliferate undisturbed, partially in reserve and wilderness areas. Time to grow. Time enough for nature to dominate once again. The lakes, with their canals, have become a point of departure for further future visions. In regions originally characterized by ponds and marshes, they today offer an enormous opportunity for future tourism and other economic uses, which means structural transformation that can revitalize the region. Thanks to the financial commitment of the German federal government, its states and communities, dedicated associations, and private investors, it's been possible to develop and implement many concepts with LMBV. Where years ago excavators mined for coal, today there are facilities for aquatic tourism, leisure activities, hotels and restaurants. Lighthouses, harbours and beaches today lend symbols of identity to two regions in transformation. Redefined industrial locations mean that modern industrial and commercial parks now develop on former lignite sites. Using the power of the wind and the sun at former mining dumps, solar power stations and wind farms produce environmentally friendly power. New energy in old energy regions. What's immediately obvious? The transformation of Eastern German mining regions into viable landscapes. Attractive lakes for recreation in former mining areas. Sailboats instead of excavators. Nature paradise on recultivated mining dumps. The largest landscape construction site in Europe offers a great variety of perspectives for these former mining regions. The men and women at LMBV are proud to have contributed to this transformation.